Melissa awoke with a start, her face drenched and illuminated by the flash of lightning from outside. Melissa sunk back into her pillow, hand on her chest, hoping to calm her overzealous heart. The dreams were growing more vivid with every night. But dreams were just dreams. If they were capable of more, then her family's circumstances would be different. Her own conditions would be different. Melissa knew that being sold into servitude was never what her parents had in mind for her. But they had 3 younger mouths to feed, and no one would just hire her. Everyone in the town as far as 3 villages over knew Melissa's dreams. There was no guarantee of a worker when they know that she would never be seen again as soon as she had the funds. Life of adventure. A life filled with love. A life filled with exploration. A life filled with life. Gergenstein was not a town known for such ideas. The most exciting thing to ever happen was its founding. Its forefathers settled for the night and then never left. The town only grew in the same way. These days, most of the population is only the older generations. As the younger generations reach maturity, they leave if their family can support it. More often than not, those who leave never come back unless on business. Only the ones employed by the town return. Some parents try to keep their children at home so they don't disappear, but most sneak out, leaving notes of apology and promises to return. No one has kept said promise. Melissa has no intentions of making such empty promises, or rather, she had no intention of doing so. That option is now removed from her. All she can do is hope that her younger siblings will make it out and live the life she wishes for. That does not mean she does not still dream of what lies beyond the town. As she falls asleep, she dreams of the world beyond the horizon, where the stars disappear and reappear from, ever changing yet always the same, day after day, year after year, changing and regressing, movement forward and back again. The moon's dancing betwixt the ever-dancing stars. Nothing beyond the hills and mountains is a constant. Up until 3 weeks ago, the opposite was true about Gergenstein. The neighboring villages have stopped sending trades, and the economy of the town is beginning to crumble. So much relied on the imports of the other villages, and without them, everything will fall. With Melissa's dreams, she feared worse was on the way for everyone. "Melissa!" Bradford yelled up the stairs, trying to be heard over the storm. "Confound it, girl! Wake up! I need your help! Water's getting into the studio!" Melissa sat back up slower than before, moving her legs off the bed onto the side. She let out a shaky breath with her back hunched and hands on the edge of the mattress. With her next inhale, she braced herself and pushed off the bed. The stone of the floor was cold as ever. She quickly found her shoes and put on her work clothes. "Melissa, if you aren't down here—" "I'm on my way down, sir." Melissa cut Bradford off before he could make an actual threat. She had tried to warn him of the coming storm, but he wouldn't listen. She would have even prepared the studio, but out of what she figured was spite, he had kept her working well into the night. Melissa could hope that any damage that did befall the structure and works inside was minimal and easily fixed or replaced. Melissa rushed down the stairs, careful to skip the step 5th from the bottom. This was no time to risk a bummed ankle. Not that any time is a good time to do so. She would be made to work regardless. At the bottom of the stairs, she could see out the window, to the back. It looked as if a river had formed and had placed the studio right in the center of it. Melissa still had some semblance of hope that the studio's internal damage would be minimal, but it was small and shrinking fast. The rain had come down fast in the night and with a vengeance. There was no water buildup, leaving the ground unprepared for the amount of fluid rushing onto it. This left it at least a foot of dirt to be shifted from the earthen surface. Although Melissa knew that it was morning or close to it from the tree canopies opening, the sky portrayed nothing but darkness, with lightning being the only avenue of light from the storm-darkened sky. A lamplight illuminated the inside of the studio, casting the shadow of Genevieve onto the far wall. As Melissa stood at the back door trying to determine a safe path, Bradford chucked a sack filled with sand to her. "Take this. Create a dam at the entrance. We'll make a circle back after that." He was difficult to hear over the howling winds and pounding rain, but Melissa knew the regular procedure for floods, even if it had been a few years. Melissa made her way to the studio, noticing how the ground was almost gelatinous or clay-like beneath her feet. both solid enough to walk across and, if still too long, immersive. The sacks of sand she had to carry did not help with the risk of sinking into the ground. At the very least, she was glad that Bradford was meeting her halfway to lessen the distance. After 10 minutes, 2 layers were done on the dam at the door. "Sir, I think we should add another layer to this first dam. Give extra support," Melissa suggested. "We don't have the bags for it. As it is, What?" Melissa shouted over the storm. "I said we don't have enough for a third." Bradford punctuated his words with hand gestures, first pointing to himself, then Melissa, crossed his arms over each other before spreading them while shaking his head no, lastly holding up 3 fingers. "We're gonna have to hope it's enough. We need the second dam more now." Melissa hoped he was right, or all of this would be for naught. The 2 got 10 bags in when Bradford slipped and landed on his back, the sandbag he was carrying on his chest. Bradford is not a frail man, but he is not as young as he once was, and with the water rushing as it was, he struggled to get up and keep his head above water. "Sir!" Melissa cried, wading her way over to him. He was gasping for air, trying to leverage the bag off of himself. Right as she was about to reach him, a crack of lightning struck a tree right next to the house, the force knocking her down and the flash momentarily blinding her. When she regained her vision, she noticed Bradford was no longer struggling to remain above the water. His head was firmly under, and his arms at his side, floating in the current. "No!" With a shout, Melissa managed to scramble to her feet and reached him with little resistance from the water. As she got closer to him, the water dissipated from his face. He still wasn't breathing, but it was better than it was moments before. When she arrived next to him, Melissa could easily move the sandbag with one hand, making it drift down before sinking just past his feet. Instinctively, she put her hand over his chest and moved it up to his face before moving it straight up. As she did, Bradford sat up and coughed up all the water that was in his lungs. Melissa quickly wrapped him in a hug. After a few moments, he returned the hug, if not a bit hesitant. Melissa helped Bradford into the house before finishing the dam around the front of the studio. It went much faster as the water began parting for her. She paid little mind to what was happening, only focused on the task at hand. When she was done, she helped Genevieve back into the main house, again not paying mind to the lack of water in their path and drizzle of rain on them while the storm continued to rage on around them. Genevieve, for her part, had made sure to stop any leaks inside the studio. When the 2 women re-entered the house and closed the door behind them, Melissa promptly collapsed to the floor, nearly hitting her head on a side table by the back door. Bradford and Genevieve both looked at her and then gravely at each other before using what strength they had left to carry Melissa to a couch in the living room.